Welcome to today's webinar on CCUS in China. My name is Juho Lipponen. I am the coordinator of the Clean Energy Ministerial CCUS initiative, and it is my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the SEM CCUS initiative and all its members. And we thank our members and colleagues from China in advance for today's presentations. We are today using the Zoom webinar application for the first time. All the participants online will be on listen-only mode. We will be answering questions at the end of this webinar, 45 minutes in to the hour, roughly. To ask your questions, please use the chat function to write them, making sure that you direct them to all panelists. There's a drop-down menu there. After the webinar, a recording will be available, and we will advise you when this is the case. So here is our agenda for today. After a brief introduction by myself and by Mr. Dr. Zhang Xian from Administrative Center of China's Agenda 21 or ACA 21, we will move to 3 presentations by our experts from China, and we will then, after the presentations, have a Q&A session. And today's panelists are shown on this slide. I will briefly give you their names. So we have Zhang Xian, who is director at ACA 21. We have Professor Yiming Wei from the Beijing Institute of Technology. We have Professor Langhui Liu from Beijing Normal University and Beijing Institute of Technology. And we have Jianing Kang from the Beijing Institute of Technology. So this crowd will give us the presentations in this webinar. Before handing the floor to Xian from ACA 21, I would like to introduce the Clean Energy Ministerial CCUS initiative to those of you who have not yet heard of us. The Clean Energy Ministerial, or the SEM, process brings together 26 countries around the world to jointly accelerate clean energy deployment. The SEM member countries make 90% of clean energy investment globally, but they're also responsible for 3/4 of global CO2 emissions. So this is a very relevant global partnership. The CCUS initiative, members of which you will see on this slide, is one of over 20 work streams under the SEM. And our members are a subset of 12 SEM governments, and our common objective is to accelerate carbon capture together. We do this because we believe that CCUS has a role to play as part of a clean energy portfolio, and because now is really the time to accelerate. We accelerate CCUS together, firstly by actively including CCUS within global clean energy agenda. Secondly, by bringing together the private sector, governments, and the investment community. So even if our members are essentially governments, we very much work with different sectors and different key stakeholders in this sector. Thirdly, by facilitating identification of both near and long-term investment opportunities. And finally, by disseminating best practice in CCUS policy, regulation, and investment, including through webinars such as the one we are doing today. And with that, I would like to pass the floor to Zhang Xian from ACA 21 to give his introduction. Xian, please.
Thanks, Juho. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, colleagues. My name is Zhang Xian from Administrative Center of China's Agenda 21, Ministry of Science and Technology. Very nice to meet you all online, and very appreciate CMCCS initiative organizes this webinar and provides a great opportunity for us to discuss the progress and the development of CCUS technology in China. Now I will briefly introduce the policies and regulations related to the CCS technology released by Chinese government, and also the background of CCUS technology roadmap issued last year in China. Chinese government considers the CCUS is a very important measure for China to reduce CO2 emissions and ensure energy security and achieve sustainable development goals in the future. Since 2006, the Chinese government has been committed to the development of CCS technology and tried to contribute to the demonstration experience in a cost-effective way. In 2011, the Department of Science and Technology for Social Development, Ministry of Science and Technology China, and the Administrative Center for China's Agenda 21 jointly published a report entitled The Research on Technology Development Roadmap for CCUS in China. After the publishing of this report, the Chinese government successfully issued the special plan in the 12th five-year plan of the National CCUS Technology Development. Notice on promoting CCS pilots and demonstrations. Action Plan for the Revolution and Innovation of Energy Technology 2016 to 2013, and also other related documents with effort to promote the development of CCS technology. CCS technology was also incorporated into China's catalog of strategic and emerging technologies and the scope of support in the National Key Science and Technology Research Program. And with those efforts, CCUS technology has experienced great progress in China. And by the end of last year, and although we don't have a full chain integrated CCS demonstration project at the moment in China, China had already built more than 20 CCUS pilot and demonstration projects. And also we found that in recent years, the new CCS technologies, especially the CO2 utilization technologies, have continued to emerge. And second generation capture technologies are expected to effectively reduce emissions at a low cost in energy intensive industries, such as coal-fired electricity generation and the coal chemical industry. And while reducing emissions, and CO2 utilization technologies also can establish a new form of business with considerable economic and social benefits. In this background, the Ministry of Science and Technology China and Act 21 updated the CCS technology development roadmap last year. The new roadmap clarifies the role of CCS technology in China and sets up the objectives of CCS technology development, and also identifies the priority activities of CCS technology demonstrations. Okay, sorry, I noticed that I nearly ran out of my time, and I would like to pass my floor to Professor Wei Yiming and ask Professor Wei to introduce the new CCS technology roadmap in more details. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Yuho.
Professor Wei, the floor would now be yours to go through the roadmap. Professor Wei, if you're ready, please.
Yeah, thanks, Yuho. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon from different country regions, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm Yiming Wei from Beijing Institute of Technology Center for Energy and Environmental Policy Research. Today, I'm very pleased to, together with my Chinese colleague, Professor Zhang Xian and Professor Lanxue Liu, to briefly introduce the CCUS in China. Now I'm going to introduce the roadmap for carbon capture, utilization, and storage technology in China. So as Professor Zhang mentioned tonight, it is officially launched in 2019. It is the second version of CCUS roadmap in China. So actually, in 2011, the Ministry of Science and Technology of China had announced the first version of CCUS roadmap. So next. Our research center, the Center for Energy and Environment Policy Research at BIT, has deeply engaged in the roadmap design and related research, as well as its framework. So here are some CCUS papers from our research center, which can be divided into layout optimization, technology assessment, investment analysis, life cycle assessment, water security, and energy penalty. And my colleagues, Nan Shui and Jiang Ning, will introduce two of them later. Next. Now, I'm going to introduce 2019 CCUS roadmap of China with following 4 parts. Firstly, the current technological progress and challenges. Next. The following picture shows the technical process of CCUS from emission sources to products. So it including emission sources, capture, transport, and utilization and storage, as well as products. So from this picture, you can see there are great progress in China of CCUS. Next. China has advantage for CCUS development because China has a very rich CO2 resources because it is fossil fuel dominant energy structure in China. And also, most of them are large scale concentrated emission sources which suitable for CO2 capture. Now also, in China, a larger geological storage capacity, which is estimated to be on the scale of trillions of tons of CO2. Complete industry chain, which offering a variety of options for the development of CO2 utilization technology. Finally, many CO2 utilization options with which the potential benefits can facilitate the development of other technical aspects of CCUS. Next. On the other hand, China still has a number of challenges for CCUS. China has, in China, the CCUS has very expensive investment and also additional energy consumption, as well as the high cost associated with CCUS. Another one is the sources in the east, but things in the west. So it increased the difficulty of demonstrating and promoting CCUS in an integrated way. Finally, the complex geological conditions and the dense population distribution. So it results a higher technological requirements for larger scale storage. Next. In recent decade, Chinese government has implemented a series of measures to develop CCUS technology, such as clearly stating the R&D strategies and the development directions of CCUS, enhancing the support for CCUS technology, R&D and demonstrations, emphasizing CCUS-related capacity building and international cooperation and exchange. So today's event is one of the way of international exchange for China CCUS associations. Next, we have done the assessment of technological progress. This picture illustrates the development of key technologies among CCUS faltering in China between 2011 and 2018. The Y-axis lists totally 39 technologies, and the Y-axis indicates the development stages, including conceptual phases, basic resources, and also pilot test, industry demonstration, and commercial applications. So if you look at this picture, you can see in China, CCUS, different kind of aspect of CCUS technologies have great progress. So next, we have very detailed illustrations about the assessment of technological progress in China in different kind of aspects of CCUS technologies. But I don't want to take more time to introduce them in detail. So next. Now let's go to the vision and the goals of CCUS in China. Next. The overall vision to establish low cost, low energy consumption, same and also reliable CCUS technology systems and industry cluster, and also to provide technological options for low carbon utilization of fossil fuels, to provide technological assurance for addressing climate change. Finally, to offer technological support for the sustainable development of China's economy and society. Especially, CCUS was regarded as a strategic technology for reducing GHG emissions. Next. This picture illustrated the overall CCUS technology development in China. So you will see by the middle of 21st century, the gaps in the energy consumption and the cost of CCUS technology are expected to be fundamental overcome. The extensive promotion and application of CCUS technology in various sectors can achieve the larger scale, low carbon utilization of fossil fuels and produce negative emissions by 2050. So from this peak, you can see we have set up the development goal term by term from 2025 to 2050. But I have no time to introduce them in detail. So next, and next. And here is the development pathway for capture technology. If you can see the picture, you will find by 2035, the second generation capture technology will become the dominant technology for achieving low carbon emission in China's female power industry. Next. Here is the development pathway for geological, chemical, and biological utilization. If you look at this picture, you will see during the period of 2030 to 2035, CO2 chemical utilization will gradually reach a commercial application level. The economic feasibility of biological CO2 utilization and geological utilization technologies will be less concentrated by external factors and will reach the commercialization level by 2040. Next. From following figure, you can see the development pathway for transport and storage. You will see by 2040, a number of 1 million ton or multi-million ton industry demonstration projects for seabed slime aquifer storage were completed, and the transport by low carbon offshore ships will be commercialized. By 2050, storage in seabed saline aquifer will be commercialized, and seabed pipeline transportation will achieve a commercial status. Next. So finally, it is the development pathway for system integration and clustering. So if you look at this picture, you can find CCUS clustering is a highly cost-effective development pathway and may be used to establish a new business model for CCUS associated with Chinese tractors. Next. The third one I want to point out here is the priority actions and area opportunities in China. Next. This table lists the regions or industries with area opportunities for utilization of technology. So from this table, we can see CO2 utilization technology has a win-win type attribute that ensures a social and also economic benefits. Next. This table indicates the priority actions in capture in stages. You will see in this table, focus on the breakthroughs in capture technology is the key option to reduce the cost and energy consumption of CCUS. Next. Specifically, we propose a concept of regional clusters of CCUS technology, which indicated in following pictures. But I have no time to introduce this picture in detail. So if you can find but you can see from this picture, we 4 chain system integration and demonstration are necessary stages for commercial applications and development of CCUS. Finally, next. Finally, there are some policy recommendations. We should enhance the R&D capacity building. Next, because I have no time to introduce them very detailed. So next, actively and orderly promote earlier integrated demonstration. So we have very detailed introduction about this kind of policy recommendations. The third one is we should strengthen the research on CCUS industrialization policies. Next. Next. Reinforce the international cooperation and technology transfer. So anyway, CCUS in China is igniting. So that's all. Thank you very much. So we can go on to the next. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much,
We
Professor
can go on
Wei.
to the next. Professor Liu.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much, Professor Wei. Before we go to Professor Liu, just a reminder that you're able to send questions to us, and you can keep them coming throughout the presentations. And actually, it's better if you send them as you think of them rather than at the end. So then we can already prepare as we move along. With that, let us move.
So maybe the best way we can send an email to them.
Correct. We now will move to Professor Liu Langqi to give us the second part of the presentation. Liu Langqi, floor is yours.
Yeah. Many thanks for Zhou. Hello, everyone. I'm Langqi Liu. It's my honor to present our study. The title is a proposed global layout of carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Next. As we know, CCUS is critical technological solution for limiting global temperature increase to 2 degrees Celsius. International Energy Agency estimated that CCUS would contribute to nearly 12% of the global emission reductions by 2040 and 14% by 2060 due to the ceiling effects of renewable energy technologies and energy efficiency improvement. From the perspective of absolute reductions, CCS technology must deliver 94 GT of CO2 emissions through 2050 and 142 GT to 2060. Next. What are 94 GT and 146 GT? Let's look at this figure. In 2017, the global CO2 emissions was 32 GT. That is to say, in the next 30 years or 40 years, reductions caused by CCUS technology will be triple or 4.4 times that of global emissions in 2017. That will be a very, very hard task. Next. By 2019, there were a total of 51 large-scale CCUS projects worldwide, but only 19 projects were in operation, and less than 0.1 GT CO2 emissions has been stored. Therefore, the development of CCS technology needs to be accelerated and be planned to achieve the target. Next. Then we should know where are these large sources distributed and where the things used for utilization and storage, and how to match these sources and things. Next. When we identify carbon sources, the following information should be addressed. First, the global layout should identify large CO2 emission clusters rather than sporadic large stationary emission sources. Actually, some papers about CO2 emissions from sources shows that carbon emissions are highly concentrated in some regions. For example, carbon emissions from coal-fired power plants in China can be divided into 4 clusters. Second, it should consider not only carbon emissions from the current large sources, but also future emissions from new sources. This is very significant because the current facilities will retire and some new facilities will be operated. Third, except for fossil-fired power plants, more industrial sources of emissions should be considered. Global emissions from electricity and heat in 2017 was 10 JT if the growth and full substitution are not taken into account. The cumulative emissions in the next 30 years or 40 years will be 30 JT or 40 JT. Even if all these emissions are captured and stored, it will be not enough to achieve the reductions required. So the most important step is to define emission clusters and determine the global distribution of these clusters. Next. For the carbon sink, we need to know storage potential. The storage potential of all possible areas in sedimentary basins worldwide should be assessed. In addition to geological factors, we also need to consider some social, economical, and environmental factors to ensure the safety of geological storage. Based on all these comprehensive considerations, practical, feasible storage sites should be screened and ranked. Next. The global source sink matching will be very complex rather than simple point-to-point source sink matching. It will be the matching of multiple sources to a sink. So it will involve the complex transportation pipelines and optimal planning to minimize the cost. Next. Based on all this information, we define the carbon source clusters and assess the storage potential and establish an optimal matching model. According to our studies, carbon clusters refer to an area consisting of adjacent grids with individual emissions exceeding 10,000 tons and total emissions exceeding 0.3 million tons. And 4,157 carbon clusters located in 121 countries, and the theoretical global geological storage potential around the world is 6,360 JT. Next. And our model shows that the total amount of 63 JT CO2 can be sequestered into deposit across, and 29 JT CO2 can be stored in the oil gas reservoirs. Globally, 60–70% of the source sink matches are within 500 kilometers, and 17% are within 500 to 800 kilometers. And the total invest cost will be very huge. It would be nearly 5.6 trillion US dollars up to 2015, and the average CO2 price will be about 40 US dollars. Next. However, due to the higher environmental risk and cost, promoting the development of CCUS depends on the regulation and policies, especially laws addressing the environmental safety of CO2 storage and incentive policies. Next. Now, major countries such as Australia, EU, Europe Union, United States, and so on have formulated relevant laws and regulations about environmental regulations. Next. These regulations address the permit, environmental impact assessment, monitoring, and remedy plans. Next. For the incentive policies, United States have specific policies, but other countries such as China has not yet launched any other policies. Next. Their government should show remarkable courage and determination to provide the necessary fiscal support and financing channels. In the future, major countries should strengthen international cooperation, to the decline or cost some standards and laws. So we have some suggestions for the development of CCUS. Next. These policies include strengthening international cooperation, active explore business models, establish sound policies and regulations, and strengthen technology research and development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lantri Liu, for your presentation. And we will now move to the final part of our presentation before Q&A, a talk by Jianing Kang on CCS, especially on coal-fired power in China. So, Jianing, if you're ready, please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jianing Kang from Beijing Institute of Technology. It's my great honor to speak here, and I'm very glad to share a work from our team with you. Today, my topic is the prospects of carbon capture and storage in China's power sector and the 2 degrees Celsius targets. Next. In the future, with the share of electricity in final energy demand more than doubling in the 2 degrees Celsius scenarios, the electrification is a key lever for CO2 emissions reductions. Therefore, decarbonized power is a backbone of the clean energy transformation, and CCS can reduce emissions from the ongoing use of fossil fuels in power generation and generate negative emissions from bioenergy generation. And IEA has studied that in the period to 2060, around half of the annual CO2 capture will be from the power sector. So we can say that CCS will play a critical role in the future power sector. Next, please. In China, next, please. China, as the world's largest CO2 emitter, is plagued by the fact that coal will continue to play a dominant role in its energy mix for decades to come, and this phenomenon is particularly evident in the power sector. More than half of China's total electricity is from the coal-fired power sector, so CCS is indispensable for China's coal power sector to achieve long-term near-zero emissions. Next. And in China's power sector, there are 4 CCS pathways. The post-combustion capture pathway in PC plants has been the most widely demonstrated in China's power sector, and there are already 5 demonstration projects. And China has already built the first commercial HCC power plant with pre-combustion capture pathway, but there's no demonstration project for the other 2 pathways yet. Next. In the existing literature, we find that the cost reduction potential of CCS has been neglected for a long time, resulting in a spread of pessimistic attitude towards the future of CCS. So, trying to answering what the most plausible future of CCS looks like has been extremely complicated. And we think there are two main challenges. The first one is not clear that was the cost reduction potential of CCS caused by technological advancements is, especially in developing countries such as China, and how to endogenize the nonlinear technological innovation process to the traditional technology planning models is also an issue. And at this background, we foresee the prospects of CCS in China's power sector and aim at answering two questions. How much money is demanded for implementing both CCS pathways with the progress of capture technologies and the dual constraints of 2-degree targets and the minimum cost, which CCS pathways should be regarded as a strategic priority. Next. Therefore, the study provides the instance for the learning curves of unit CO2 avoidance cost for 4 CCS pathways from China's perspective and establish a nonlinear technology optimization model with endogenous technological progress. And based on the time that CCS has the conditions for commercialization in the power sector, we set 3 scenarios based on the commercialization time, and the accelerated improvement, continued improvement, and related improvement. Next. The component-based learning curve is employed here to depict future cost of CCS. And the principle of the component-based learning curve is to break down the total cost of a complex system into key components. And based on the definition, we can deduce the mathematical expressions of the learning rates on CO2 avoidance cost for China's perspective. Next. Next. We then integrated the learning curves into our nonlinear technology optimization models, and our objective function is to minimize the total CO2 avoided cost required by CCS to achieve the 2 degrees Celsius targets. Next. The figures here show learning curves of the unit generation cost and CO2 avoided cost for 4 CCS pathways in China's power sector. And the learning rates here for 4 pathways are in the range from 5.7% to 11.8%. Next. From the perspective of technology development and cost, we found that the installed capacity of CCS power plants to achieve the 2 degrees Celsius targets is expected to be 491 gigawatts by 2050 under AIS. And this amount under CIS is suggested to be 527 gigawatts, while for BIS is at an alarming capacity of more than 600 gigawatts. From the perspective of cost, CCS deployment for achieving the necessary CO2 reductions will expenditure approximately $389 billion under AIS, and for BIS, this cost will soar to $500 billion due to the lag in large-scale promotion of CCS. Next. Considering the emission reduction, the post-SPC pathway is a major contributor among the 4 pathways, and the effect of pre-HCC pathway will come into play around 2030 to 2035, and the role of auxiliary pre-HCC pathway to the abatement will be prominent as early as 2045. Next. By 2050, the average break-even carbon price in the 3 scenarios is in the range from $40 US and to $60 US per ton CO2, and we find that the delayed commercialization of CCS and high initial costs will greatly exacerbate long-term carbon prices. It's also informative for making the future subsidies and taxation policies. Next. For the relief of the overall burden of abatement costs, we suggest that the large-scale CCS promotion should be between 2025 and 2030 from China's power sector, and we also propose 4-step development strategies to accelerate the breakthroughs in the key equipment or product upgrades to pave the way for CCS large-scale commercialization in China's power sector. Next. And finally, I want to end my presentation with some other studies on CCUS from our team, like Professor Wei has introduced. We sincerely look forward to further discussions and cooperations with all experts in the field of CCUS in the future. And that's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Jianing Kang, and thank you very much for all our speakers in today's webinar for giving us such a wealth of information and analysis from China, but not only China, but also more globally. So thank you very much for that. We do have time for a number of questions, and thanks everyone on the line for having sent us some questions, and we will be going through a few of these now in the next minutes. I have a general sense that most of the questions have been directed to Professor Wei, but I would also encourage all the other speakers to jump in case they want to answer some of these questions as well. Let's start with the first one. This is Professor Wei. I believe this is most directed to you. In the 2019 roadmap and that commercialization pathway, does it assume any global carbon price?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello, Dr. Wei. You are.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So, could you? I can't. So, could you?
Repeat the question.
Repeat. Yeah. Your question.
Yes.
So you just mentioned the carbon price.
Indeed. So the question is that does the analysis behind the deployment of CCUS in the roadmap, does it assume any global carbon price, or is it simply
Yes.
China specific? Okay.
Yes. Usually we do the roadmap strategy, so we have to consider the economy or cost benefit analysis. So in that case, we should consider a carbon market, maybe the international carbon market. We have to consider the carbon price. So different kind of carbon price, we have different kind of strategy of roadmap for the future CCUS technology. So we have different kind of scenarios of carbon price we have to consider.
Thank you very much, Professor Wei, for that answer. Did you want to continue?
Maybe Professor Zhang Xian could some additional response.
Absolutely. Zhang Xian, if you're there, please go ahead as well.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I would like to add something to this question. Actually, in this research, we have used the power plant retirement time as one factor for the commercialization. We consider the carbon price would be very strong assumption, at the moment to do the roadmap, because in China the carbon price is relatively low at the moment, and also we are faced a very serious situation about the power plant retirement time. And in China, more than half of the existing coal-fired units were built between 2005 and 2015, based on an operational life of 30 to 40 years. The thermal power industry will face a peak of unit replacement between 2035 and 2045. Considering the pattern of the thermal power industry development and the change of carbon capture technology development, and reform the power and storage units that adopt first generation capture technology should be mainly adopted in existing coal-fired units before 2035. After 2035, and probably the second generation capture technology should be mainly adopted in new build power plant. As such, the period around 2035 will be the critical point for achieving intergeneration upgrades to capture technology. And based on the outlook of this scenario, and the first generation capture technology should achieve lower generation and energy consumption levels and cost as soon as possible, and be actively promoted and demonstrated. Based on those assumptions, and we made the roadmap, the new roadmap. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Changxian. I believe there's a couple of questions also where Professor Wei and Changxian, yourself as well, might be the best ones to answer. And this is namely about policy and incentives. There's a few distinct questions that have come in on that. So summarizing these perhaps into 1/2 questions. To achieve the deployment, what will be the incentives for companies to deploy CCUS? And is there any thinking around that? Will it happen via government regulations, or could China consider something like the US have done with tax credit policy or other type of incentive policy? Could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, Professor Zhang, so could you?
Okay, yeah.
Your policy, you can.
I try to. Okay. I try to answer this question. So, actually, for other countries, regulations, carbon pricing, and also other financial support, probably the main incentives to promote CCS technology development at the moment. For example, in the UK, and we got capture ready regulations, and for Norway, and we got very good carbon tax or carbon pricing there. And also in US, and we got 45Q policy. But at the moment in China, we do got the carbon price, but the carbon price is relatively low and it's not strong enough to promote CCS technology by its own at the moment. So the current CCUS demonstration project or pilot very much rely on receiving fundings from Ministry of Science and Technology and other government agencies. And also the companies, the state-owned companies that is hosting the project is also provide fundings to the operational cost. So basically, this is my understanding to the policy issues.
Yes, I have another additional response to these questions. So Chinese government is paying much attention to the carbon price. So one way is China is undertaking the carbon trade market from the energy intensive sectors such as electricity sectors. It's undertaking the carbon trade market. And also Chinese government is considering the carbon tax policy. So that's all. Hello.
Thank you, Professor Wei and Changxian for these answers. We do have time for at least one, if not two more questions. One question or theme seems to have also sparked people's thinking, and this is Professor Wei, when you were presenting in the beginning of a presentation that much of the CO2 capture and CO2 emission sites are in the east, whereas the sinks would primarily lie in the west of China. Can you talk a little bit what that would mean, and what does that mean for infrastructure build out and these things to get the CO2 from capture to the sinks, please?
Yes, that means the carbon emission source in the east, because most of the energy emission plants are in the east. But based on the geological district of China, the geological condition for carbon storage is in the west of China. So that means there's a long way from the carbon resources to the carbon storage place. So it means that we have to take a long way to transport from the resources to the storage place. So it means if we consider the integrated system, so it's not so easy to take into consideration into an integrated plant for CCUS full-chain demonstration.
Okay, thank you, Professor Wei. We are coming to the end of the timer allocation. We do want to keep this to 60 minutes as it was planned. A number of the questions were around the slides, whether they are available after the webinar. We will do a quick round with all the panelists after this to see if all the slides or part of them are okay to be circulated, and we will circulate a package of slides to you after the webinar, and the recording will also be available then in a few days time. So that's what we have time for today, colleagues. Thank you very much for all your attendance. If you want to get in touch with the CCUS initiative, please email. The address is shown on this slide, or you can also follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. And I would like to announce that our next webinar will be on the 2nd of April, not 2nd of March, not 2nd of April, March, but 2nd of April at the same hour. And this will be on the new developments in CCUS in the Netherlands. So thank you everybody for your active participation through all the questions that we've got, and we will also relay questions that you have sent to all our panelists, and we'll be able to get back to you. And don't hesitate to email us if there's particular aspect of this webinar and CCUS in China that you wish to discuss with us.
Thank you.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, and with our panelists, thank you very much for all your time, and we will end the webinar here. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you
for your
Thank you.
wonderful organization. Thank you very much. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Juho. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Johan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.